And what we want to do today is to be able to sit a spell. I'm former county judge of Bastrop, and I was county judge for over 14 years. And when I got elected, I was 27 years old. And I used to go around and talk to people, and they said, Ronnie, how can you be county judge? You're still wet behind the ears. I was like, ah. But I remembered something that my grandfather always did. He had these things called, he used to go around, sit, talk to people. And when he went to talk to them, they would always shake his hand. And they would say this. They would say, can we sit a spell? And I was like, how long is a spell? But I saw something. Welcome. I saw something very important in those conversations that my grandfather was having. He got to know people. He began to understand their value and their assets. And when I decided to run for county judge, that helped me out a lot because I was young and I didn't know everything. But as I was going around sitting and talking to people, I was beginning to understand value and input. And as I understood the value, the input, and assets that people had, it helped me to be able to be county judge. And you know, Bastrop County is one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Texas. And through those relationships that we built through sitting the spell, we were able to learn a lot about each other, but also get people involved in government, get them involved in how they were going to move forward and plan, and it helped us. And I want to do the same thing in District 27. I understand that one person cannot bring a change, but when all of us sit together and work together, great things happen. And as I sit at this table, I get excited because I've had individuals that have sown into me when I was in school, but also individuals who have had a great input on education, not only locally, but throughout the state. So we want to have a round table today, sitting up here talking about things that are important to education. So this is our Sit a Spell education kickoff, the first thing that we've done. And I want to introduce a very important person to me. I would consider her to be my best friend, my motivator, the one that keeps me stable, my wife, Ty McDonald. I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself.
I'm Ty McDonald. I'm the one that makes sure that he has other colors besides maroon in his work and just helps him with the things that he has to do because I believe in him. I believe in what it is that he stands for, and I just want to support him in everything that he sets his mind to accomplish. And so that's why I'm here. I am a former teacher, also school board member and school board president. I am also a pastor of a church now and the mom of 3 beautiful children. And I want to introduce the others that are at the table because I don't think everybody knows everyone that's here. We had some brief introductions, but just want to make sure that everyone's familiar because we're just going to talk to each other. We're going to have a good time. We want it to be warm. We want there to be laughter, even though we're talking about some serious things on this evening. And so when I say your name, if you'll just kind of raise your hand so that everybody will know who you are. We have with us Terry Ham. She is a retired high school English teacher and counselor. Most recently at Bastrop High School. She's currently the state director of the Texas Association of Student Councils. Thank you for being here, Terry.
Now I want to say this because student councils are very important. Not only do they build leadership, they build connectivity. I had an opportunity to be a part of the student council, and the people that I made friends with then were my friends throughout college and are now friends throughout life. So that organization of building leadership, building connectivity is so very important. It is a model that we can take in looking at leadership. So thank you, Ms. Hannah.
We also have Kim Chapman. She's taught at all levels from elementary to high school. She's currently a behavior coach at Cedar Creek Intermediate School, and she's also the president of the Bastrop Federation of Teachers. Thank you for being here. We have Tony Malone. He's a first grade teacher at Blue Bonnet Elementary School, an excellent teacher. Should be teacher of the year every year. It's great.
You did win teacher of the year. What year now? What year was that?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember? No. I do remember hearing that.
We also have the male at the table besides the candidate, Nathaniel Daragowski. And we want to thank you for being here with us on tonight. He's a third grade math and science teacher at Bluebonnet Elementary School in Cedar Creek, Texas. We also have Christy Martinez with us, a third grade teacher at Emile Elementary School in Bastrop. Thank you for being here with us on this evening. And we have Rebecca Bennett, my friend, who helped us put this gathering together, and we so appreciate her. She's a retired high school English teacher and journalism teacher and mentor to many. Thank you for being here, Becky. We also have Christy Scroggs with us on today. We're so happy to have her. She's a Bastrop High School graduate, and she teaches ASL at Cedar Creek High School. And so we've got good representation here with us on tonight, and we're excited about our discussion. And so,
can I ask one quick question? Yeah, one of these individuals was your teacher, right? Am I right?
Miss Bennett, yes.
Miss Bennett.
Yes.
And the reason I want to bring that out is because when good examples are set, people want to follow in your footsteps. So when you can see it, because she came in, she said it was the first time that I called her by her first name.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about that is the example that she did such a great job and was such a role model that students want to follow in those footsteps. So even as we have teachers, it's also examples of mentoring and walking and helping individuals to see their paths. So thank y'all for being here. Thank you for being the examples that y'all are in the community. And as we go forward, the reason we want to have this, because people always say, how can we bring about difference or change? And I believe it is communicating with people, finding out their experiences, and understanding how we can connect those assets. And each person at this table has an asset. So I think we have different ages represented in teaching, different years, and that is going to help us as we move forward. Because as a congressman, I believe one of our important things is to be able to connect to the people, connect to the needs that are in the district, but make sure they're being represented at another level. And the only way we can do that is to be able to have these conversations. So that is the theme of the sitter spell, is to be able to sit, listen, have my notebook. I want to take notes, but to remember the important things so when I leave, I can be able to connect those needs to Congress and making sure those issues that we're looking at, and also the state level as we move up.
Okay. The first question has to do with the current administration. The current administration has a $10.6 billion proposed cut in federal education initiatives. And some of those things that are going to be cut include mental health services, civics and arts programs, international education, language studies, anti-bullying activities, gifted and talented initiatives, full service community schools. And we just want to get your input on those proposed cuts, how that's going to affect you in the classroom, how that would affect students, and also how that kind of fits in with the Department of Education's value or mission to have excellence and access in education, because they've stated that that's their mission, that's their core value. Is to provide access and to have excellence in education. So if you can kind of speak to some of those issues, and if you feel like there's some things that need to be changed with any of the things that cuts are proposed for. You can talk about those things, but we just want to hear from you. And if we need to continue the discussion later on, we can do that, because we want to really get into some of these things. And like I said, when we first started, we're going to interact with our audience that's going to be tuning in with us as we go along tonight. And so they may pose some questions as well. And as we have time, we'll ask some of those questions. But whoever wants to kick it off.
Well, I'll start. Many of those things that are to be cut by the budget are the reasons that kids come to school. The arts, kids don't come to school for their English teacher, unfortunately. You know. They come to school for their electives: band, dance, journalism. You know, their electives. That's what they enjoy. That's their passion. That's why they come to school. You cut those things out of the curriculum, and you lose a lot of motivation. And also, some of the safety nets. Some of our kids come to school so they get a meal. or 2 meals. And if we don't, if we don't have the child nutrition program anymore, many of those kids are going to go hungry all day long. And science tells us, I know our president isn't into science, but science tells us that kids who are hungry can't learn. And so I think those cuts would be devastating to school children.
Speaking specifically to the cut for gifted and talented programs, it's easy to think, oh, those children, they excel, they're very smart, they're gifted. We don't need to give them that extra attention. We need to do intervention and focus on the kids who aren't getting it. And we can just give them busy work and they can keep themselves occupied. Oftentimes I find that those kids become my biggest behavior problems because they're not being stimulated and they're not given the things that they need in order to excel, so they lose motivation. So we're taking our already motivated kids and already excited kids who excel at things, and we're pushing them to the wayside. They're losing motivation, and for me, that's doing such a disservice to them.
A lot of times, those GT kids are those kids who aren't connected in any other way in school. They are so high above the, other kids in the way they process that they don't relate to their peers. And when you take away those services, you may be taking away that person in that building that student relates to, and or that place that student feels at home. And we know, these kids have the know-how. We're talking about, kids capable of a Columbine type attack if they don't feel, because those are the kids with the know-how, those bright kids. So when you take away those support services, you're not just taking away that place to excel academically, but you're also taking away their place to plug in and to feel connected.
You said 1.6 million.
Yes.
I think it's really more than that because when you start talking about what's termed school choice and you start providing ways and means that you take money out of the public school system and go someplace else with it, even though those students may or may not be accepted there, even though they may or may not stay there, your net loss is larger than that.
I was going to go at the elementary level where we see these little kids and we see them a lot and we spend a lot of time with them, so we get to know their little personalities. And when problems arise, we're going, what's going on in this kid's head? So we get to look at some mental health issues maybe that are manifesting and festering, and this little kid's calling out for help, and we're like, how do we help them? But it's on a level where, as just a classroom teacher, might see some things happening, but I don't really know how to get them help other than calling CPS, and then you have to meet certain criteria or some things have to happen, and they're just like, okay, we've looked at it and we're moving on. But I think we need to look harder at them. I've been teaching 20 years and I see little kids doing and saying and acting out stuff that it's scary.
We need more mental health services.
Yes.
not less.
I agree, specifically now living in a time and in a culture where suicide in school-age children is on the rise, and we're going to cut that. That just doesn't make sense to me.
And the children that need mental health services in elementary school, if they don't receive those services, when they get to high school, that they enter the criminal justice system.
I think a lot of people don't really believe that there are more stressors, more mental health issues than there have been, And Dr. Tom Elmore is one of the foremost people researching a lot about education. And at one time I was kind of on that fence. I thought, well, they're diagnosing more. But no, I mean, you are seeing more stress in today's kids. A lot of it, more extreme behavior. A lot of it is the news that never stops, the content that never comes, and the not being able to know how to process it. Another is whether or not you have faith that people in government are going to take care of you, and are going to do what's best for you. I'm the baby boomer here, the first of it, and at one time I thought my government leaders did that. I really trusted that they were looking after me. And kids today don't have that faith and that trust, and so they need access to people at school. They need that one-on-one content. They need that adult who's vested in them.
Well, we can see them, but then what do we do with them other than write a referral or call their parents, you know? How do we get that help? I mean, that's what's missing. They need, I mean, it's there, they need help. They need help beyond me teaching them academics.
You need those mental health services. I mean, as a school counselor, I knew you to call for help. You know, I would
She was also my school counselor.
so I would, do that sort of thing. But you need those experts in the school.
Yeah.
And if you catch things early and you deal with it early, then you're going to make that difference. It's not going to be huge.
Yeah, we live in a really tough world. It's tough. It's
So in
really
our,
tough.
in our culture of testing, especially here in Texas, our school counselors are called on to be test coordinators more than they are counselors. And, they do more administrative type duties than they do, actually
Your
serve
textbook said it
children.
should be about 250 to 1. In Dallas right now it's 900 to 1. I don't know.
Well, if you hadn't noticed, teachers are counselors, parents, brothers, sisters. I mean, they're everything to these kids. Some of the cutbacks would include that anti-bullying. We, made an initiative this year to do a social and emotional curriculum for our kiddos because they're not getting the things that they need at home to be emotional and learning how to deal with things and how to make friends and keep friends and how to interact with each other and that's a really good program that we have right now, and I feel like if you do away with something like that, that's really helpful, even though we're not counselors and we're not psychologists, but we have a curriculum that we can follow and help those children. This is how you make a friend. This is how you resolve conflict. This is how you can go out in the world and apply this to real life. I mean, these are enrichment activities that I really firmly believe in, and taking even a little bit of money out of that is very detrimental to children because we're not just teaching
When you
academics.
look at it, the federal funds are only about 6 to 8% of the school budget. I mean, they're already minuscule.
And everybody has heard this time and time again. We spend more time with our students at school than their parents spend with them at home during the weekday. And so we do teach a lot more than just academics or our specific content area. We teach them how to be good people and how to live and work with other individuals. So if we couldn't do that anymore, I think that our society and our communities would have experienced those consequences later in life, and I don't know, that would just make me nervous to see what.
And it would be more costly. All these programs we put in schools to help kids, mental health or child nutrition or social emotional learning, all of those prevent problems. They save money. They don't cost society money. They save society money.
So as it relates to access to education, how are these cuts going to affect access?
Well, the kids without means are going to go without. Just like I mentioned child nutrition before, parents do not withhold food from their kids on purpose. If they, kids who go hungry because the family does not have the money to provide 3 meals a day. And we had an after-school program at the high school for a couple of years, and what they found is that the most important need that they had to address after school with high school kids, these are teenagers, was hunger. That was the most important thing. A lot of those kids went to the program because they were hungry and they got a snack there. And otherwise they were going to be hungry until dinner time or maybe the next morning at school when they got breakfast.
Again, speaking to the high school level, I've only ever taught high school in this community, and so I have students who come in first period and they are falling asleep because they had to work the overnight shift because they're come from a single parent household and they're helping make that extra income for their parents. So I think it would make it easier on children and on parents and on families to say, you know what, we don't need you to go to school. You're not getting anything from there anyway. We need you to stay home and we need you to work. So I think that our dropout rate would increase.
Yes. That happens now. It would just get worse. Now, I think the thing that would really affect access are the president's and the education secretary's love for charter schools and vouchers. That's going to hurt access because vouchers are only gonna help people that already have the means to send their kids to a private school. It's just gonna make it easier on them. The families that don't have the means at all, they're not gonna be able to, those are not gonna be 100% vouchers. They're gonna be, 30, 50% vouchers. And so if the family can't make the rest of the money for the tuition, that they have no access. Charter schools, again, let's go back to the data. It shows that they do not do as good a job as the public schools do. They also don't offer all the programs that public schools do. They do not offer special ed services many times. They don't offer transportation.
Or ESL, English as a second language, specifically like in Texas, we know that's a huge, huge need. We have many students who don't speak English coming into the school system, but we still test them and they still have to do everything that our English speaking students do. And so if they have the voucher program, those services might not be offered to them, and they may not have the means like transportation. I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of segregation in modern times.
And that's exactly what it is.
On the other hand, we've really focused on low income. And a lot of kids in that upper income level have huge needs too. It may be that their families are so busy that they aren't getting the attention they need, that they aren't getting the access they need, and that they aren't working with the diversity of people that we need to do to be successful in this world. The other thing that I would say would reduce access is if we continue to reduce funding, we're going to lose more teachers than we already have now. And you take everything else away. It's the quality of that person in the school, in the classroom. It's the support for them. And I believe we need to start with respect. Respect for educators. Respect for the process. Valuing it. Affirmation. It's very difficult to pursue a degree that's going to be $130,000, $140,000 to get your degree. Start work for a salary that's not going to allow you to pay your student loans. Take a second job to help ends meet and provide what you need for those kids. We are facing a dearth of teachers in Texas, and we're not facing the lack of teachers that many other states are. And we need our best and we need our brightest to go in there. And anything that takes away from the value in that education is going to deter more people from going into the field. So when you talk about access, let's talk about access to quality.
Yes.
Well, there is a crisis, a shortage crisis in math and science teachers. And at Bastrop High School, last year they had a physics position open for so long that they just eliminated it. They said, we'll never find a physics teacher. And so, that's like 130, 150 kids that just don't get to take physics because they couldn't find a teacher.
Well, I would say there's a crisis in finding good teachers across the board. And it's really sad when you hear so many teachers not encouraging their students to go into education. I can't think of a career that has more feedback, more worth, and they really wish they could.
I think the high turnover rates from year to year prove that, and they show that and agree with that.
So how do we tackle some of these issues? How do we make public ed, when we have that excellence in public education, and really make it so that there aren't so many parents that want to escape and go to maybe the charter schools or the private schools?
I'll say one, let's talk about some of the good things that are happening in schools.
Yes.
I was gonna say,
There are
there's
fantastic
so much
teachers.
info.
There are wonderful programs. There are kids doing amazing things out there. It doesn't make the headlines. It's not sexy. But it doesn't. It's not there. But let's talk about the good things. Let's lift those people up. The teachers of the year, the people who publish amazing newspapers, those who guide students into. Let's look at some of that and let's talk about people, and then let's engage those who understand education.
I like
Yes.
that. That's good.
And that's what I get excited about, because when we start talking about the opportunity for us to connect community and say, where do we have more opportunity for success, getting more mentors, getting more community organizations involved in the school system to be able to help where we see some voids, so they have a better understanding of the opportunities that are there, so we can build on. Because it really does take all the pieces coming together.
Let's hear from our kids.
Yeah.
Let's get student voice. I mean, who is the client? Who is the biggest stakeholder there? I was just at a conference in Spokane and saw a great video that the kids made that says, "Don't do things for us without us."
I love it.
Becky, did you have something?
Yeah, Terry mentioned respect, and I think one of the most disrespectful things you can do to show disrespect towards teachers is to put someone in charge of national education policy who has never been a teacher, never been an administrator, a counselor, a school librarian, has no practical experience in any public schools, who is simply an ideologue, and put her in charge of all education for the nation. That's disrespectful. I went to school for a long time. I studied very hard. I learned the science of education, and then I worked for 25 years honing the craft of education. And I find it personally very disrespectful to me for the president to choose someone that has no background whatsoever in education in any form.
She's referencing the current Secretary of Education. It's a good point. Anyone else?
I would say just listening to your teachers. We're there every single day with your kids. I hear time and time again teachers just say, we just need this, if we just had this or this, we could do our job successfully. But people are like, teachers, you just want and want and want. You have summers off, your life is good. But that's not the case. Listen to your teachers, because we aren't out for your money. We just want to make sure that your kids are taken care of to the best of our ability. So help us help you and help your children.
And I would say also be there. Come into the classroom. Come. You know, most teachers would welcome you in to see what we're doing, see the great things these kids do every day, and then go out and talk about it. You know, just, you know, like you were saying, spread the word, let people know. We, in my classroom, we tweet every day. We have at least one tweetable moment every single day, and the kids get excited about sharing what we're doing. And so I've been challenged to tag, you know, my congressman on my tweets so that they see what we're doing.
Tag me.
You know, parents really build their children up, and they're there for them, and they want to do everything for them. We need Congress, legislation, and all that to do that for the education, for the teachers. Their parents are doing it for their children, and we need them to do it for us so that we can help support their children. Because I'm a very hands-on parent, and very hands-on, and if I felt like I had that support coming from above and somebody's helping me, even if I don't have the funds and I have to make do, if I have that support, if I have that praise, if I have those, some type of something, then I'm going to be more willing to do more. Not necessarily always for less, but we're in it for the children. And Congress, legislation, all those big people up there, they need to realize that we're in it for the long haul. We're in it to help the children be better in society, and we have to have those, some type of resources. Something. Give us something.
It's not
Give us
strong. Teachers are stretched about as thin as you can, stretch them. And nobody goes into education for the money, but I think throwing some money at some of these problems will help. We've certainly seen them take money away from education, and I think the state legislature took $5 billion during the financial crisis, and they've only put back $4 And so, that we have a net loss of over $6 billion, and it still hurts. We're still feeling the effects of those budget cuts. And these budget cuts that Congress is talking about, like I said before, they're going to be devastating. Things cost money, and where you put your treasure shows everyone what you value. And if Americans value their children and their future, then I think they need to put some money into education, because these services are not free.
Becky, that's awesome. We need to get a t-shirt that says that. That's quotable.
Can you repeat that? Let's run through that.
And I like what everybody was saying, and Terry mentioned earlier about the contribution that the federal government actually makes is very small. But if we could have that connectivity where we have the federal government and the state level government, and then the local government, the superintendents, the teachers, the administrators working together on some of these issues and actually communicating, talking top down and down up, I think it would help in a lot of ways, instead of just looking at things and not really having an understanding. You mentioned Betsy DeVos a little bit earlier, not really having an understanding because she's never really been there. And then looking at programs and saying, well, this doesn't look like it's working, but you've never been there. And so maybe it needs some tweaking, maybe it needs some refining, but it doesn't need to be taken away. And we don't need another program stacked on top of a program that we already have. We need to give these programs that we already have in place time to work, and we need to give them some money. I know people don't like throwing money at problems, but like you said, this is a problem that we really do need to throw some money at. There needs to be that. And somebody sent a question in for you guys. They want to know how you feel about the cuts to the money that you spend on supplies. Not being able to.
We're begging, borrowing from everybody else.
Yeah, the $200.
The $200 tax deduction,
Yes.
most of us spend,
Well, Exxon really needs that money more than teachers do, so.
Say it again now.
Exxon needs that money more than teachers.
How does everybody find loopholes? How come education can't find some loopholes?
Yeah,
I mean, they're there.
You
Trump brags about his darn loophole. Oh, got a loophole. Boy, did I use it. Well, yay. Let's find some
There you go,
loopholes.
find us a loophole.
Ty, you said something about programs. We don't need a new program.
Yeah.
I think in education we see last year's new thing and this year's new thing. The LYNT and the VY. And we also see so much programs coming in, and you invest and you pull administrators out of the building and you pull teachers out of the building and out of the classroom to do training and training and training. And then another year goes by and, we're not doing that anymore.
Because you got a new administrator that has a new program.
Or the government or somebody comes down with a new. Another thing is that so much of this money is tied up in grants. Okay, so what do you do for grants? You hire a grant writer. Well, that's somebody out of the classroom because that's working on that. That's another office, that's another staff. Then that grant has such strict protocols and lines out that then you spend all this time documenting that you met the grant. Then 2 years comes down and you lose that grant money, and you've established staff,
Right.
You've established a program, and that's gone. We need consistent follow through, working to do what we know works with kids, rather than just rolling out program after program after program.
Also with that, I think this is my 4th year teaching, and I know every year it's a new thing, and the next year we're not even going to do it. So part of me is sitting in this staff development going, I'm going to pay attention, but do I really need to? Because next year it's going to be obsolete and it's not going to work. So I think there is not a lot of teacher buy-in for those things that come and go, which render them ineffective.
Plus the programs that are in there or out there, they don't always pertain to every single teacher. So you've got some wasted time and resources that teachers could be using for programs that are specific to them. I mean, there's been many, many times I've sat in a staff development going, does this have anything to do with me? Because I'm not really sure. Does this have to do with the kids that I'm working with? Okay, can I go somewhere else? I mean, you need to either specific to what you're doing, or you need a whole that, like classroom management, some kind of, something that would pertain to everybody.
And I look at this where they pull you out, and couldn't they do much more with a coach that comes to your school? Someone who sees the school and understands them and works with people, rather than all of this pull out that's a.
I will say I enjoy that now, having an instructional coach on each campus, and they kind of give you that direction. I will say that is really nice, and I do enjoy that.
I was gonna just kind of piggyback off what you guys said. Sometimes it's not really the program that's broken. The programs that aren't working, it's the way we evaluate them. I mean, in our current culture, I mean, we should be preparing kids for jobs that require innovative thinking, problem solving, creativity, yet we're preparing them to bubble.
We're stealing their creativity.
And you can't evaluate creativity, problem solving.
We're scaring them out of failing and out of risk taking when we know
Exactly,
that the
because
most
they are not being
innovative ideas come from
encouraged
failure
to be
and risk
risk
taking.
takers. They are being encouraged to, be button pushers. And the button pusher jobs, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, are not coming back. If we are going to be competitive in the global market, our kids starting from kindergarten when they walk in the door have to be encouraged to be creative problem solvers.
We don't walk the talk. I mean, we talk about what we're going to do, but we need to know that we're preparing kids for jobs that don't exist.
Yes.
And that they do need to be problem solvers and communicators and innovators and know how to work with teams and people who are different than they are, and yet we teach them to take that same multiple choice test, which was developed as one of the lowest common denominators in evaluation ever.
But there's so much money too.
Yeah.
It's
It's easy
cheaper
to score, but look at the amount of money that's in testing.
that we spend in testing.
Exactly. There's your loophole. Get rid of the testing, and then spread it,
Yes.
put it back in the
And should
classroom.
we evaluate? Yes. Did we have some schools
It
that weren't doing what they ought? We had some horrible schools. And so some of that evaluation brought that up. But aren't there other ways to evaluate? And we don't have to be spending so much time testing and teaching the testing and creating new testing when you have some excellent standardized tests that are out there.
And I don't think that the fear or the frustration with the standardized test is people coming in and testing the children. I think if we're quality teachers in the classroom, then we welcome that, because that holds us accountable and that proves to everybody else that we are doing great things in our classroom. It's just the way in the system that we have is super broken.
I listened to kids talk summer before last, when we had a little focus group where they were asking about what did they think about the State Board of Education and what did they think about TEA. And the kids talked about the test. And they said, the STAR test does not prepare us for college. It doesn't prepare us for an AP test. It doesn't prepare us for ACT or SAT. It doesn't do anything for me. We spend all this time doing, and then they talked about the different standards that you have for passing rates, and they are very well aware of that.
And it becomes a scare tactic. You don't do well on this, then you don't graduate.
Yes.
Well, and also,
Or you lose
it's
an elective.
not, it's not appropriate for all students either. You have it, and you give the same test to all these kids. You have kids that are not ever going to be on that level, and through no fault of their own, and they're still forced to take a test
And it's
that a GT kid would have to take, and they cannot do it. They need to be evaluated on their level, and what they know and what they can learn, what they can process, not some dumb piece of paper that they can't barely read. They need something that's geared towards them.
Different intelligences.
Yes.
And it's funny because I just finished my graduate coursework, and the major thing that they focused on was differentiation. And we're not doing that.
No, we're not.
We're expected
How
to
are
do
you?
that in
We're
the
expected to
classroom.
do that in our lesson plans, in the classroom.
Yes, all day, but the
And
state does not do
what
that.
you- And teachers get peeved if they use a one-size-fits-all model.
But we
Especially in the classroom.
force that for the children.
But somehow the state evaluates the students and the teachers on a
But
That's right.
one-size-fits-all model.
Your job and your evaluation at the end of the year depend on those test scores that your students do for that non-differentiated test. So it's kind of hard for
And
us
at
to.
the
It's
elementary
hypocritical.
level,
It's very hypocritical.
my evaluation is based also on how his students are doing. So, it's not just on, me and my 22, little guys in my classroom, but it's the 22 little guys that are in his room that may have my name as their first grade teacher. So, that one day that kid comes into school to sit down and take that test, if mom and dad had an argument at home and he's not focused, that throws, yeah, it reflects badly on, on everyone. And then, then you have to ask, well, what are we doing to our kids?
Talk about the GT kid who's not a teacher pleaser.
Yeah.
And doesn't
I
really
live with
care
one
about
of
the
those.
test.
Yes,
But
I
this
live
is-
with one of those. Yes, so believe me, I know.
So Nathaniel, as a math and science teacher, what would you like to see happening? Even support from federal government, from state government, to get more students involved and even more teachers in math and science. What do you think are some things that could be done to kind of promote that?
Sorry, can you restate that?
Some things that you think can be done to promote more teachers in the field of math and science, and then some improvements that can be made in math and science in terms of students excelling, some support that you could get from administration or from the government so that we could see students really excel, get involved in math and science.
Well, I think it all goes back to the basic needs of the child and the funding, the cuts in funding. Back to that first question you asked about the cuts in funding. If we cut all these programs from a child, then they are not going to be able to come to school and focus on higher concepts in math and science. That's what my belief is. So just start from the beginning and give everybody the support that they need.
Help people live a good life. I remember when I was a teacher and students would get really excited about the TOTS test. It was a TOTS test then. And they were excited because they got pigs in the blanket. They weren't excited about the testing. It was just that we were going to get juice and we were going to get pigs in the blanket, and you could eat all the pigs in the blanket you wanted to eat during testing. And so, and you got to have this time, even though you were taking tests, you got to interact after you took the test, and it was just a change. And I think they liked that change. It was a little bit different from just coming in and sitting and making the donuts. It's the same thing every day, and it was just a change in the atmosphere, and I think they really benefited from that.
I also think because the standardized test that the students take is not differentiated to their level of cognition, that they get a poor standardized test score on their standardized math test, and they feel frustrated, and they already have that in their brain that they are not good at this subject, and that just festers as the child gets older and the content gets more complex and more difficult.
I want to say something. A lot of money gets straight just given big stacks of it to the military. And they don't have to prove anything. They don't have to take a test. They just say, we need a plane, a boat, whatever. But I'm telling you, ignorance is really the enemy of our country. Ignorance. And it starts right here when we're trying to educate. So we need boots on the ground in the classroom. Like, I wouldn't be unhappy if there was another teacher in the room with me. Because there's more things I have to deal with than just trying to get lesson plans or whatever. I need somebody to help with, maybe this kid's sick, he's upset, he's hungry. I have to meet so many needs. I feel like a glorified daycare giver sometimes.
Well, when you're talking back on like math and science and all that, the biggest thing that I had, because I used to teach culinary arts, is that, first of all, girls aren't really involved in math and science like boys are. So somehow you want to develop programs for children that are girls that are
And I
going
would
to,
think that our target out here would be middle school, because when they leave elementary, they think that they are the best scientists in the world.
right.
And so something happens, because, I've had a robotics program going, and I've had more girls than boys in those programs. And so then, then when I look at the high school robotics teams, I'm like, where's this person? Where's that person? What happened to this person? And somehow they've gotten the message. And it may be like Nathaniel was saying, I get a bad score on that math, STAR test, and I'm done. I'm no good at that. I can't do math. I can't do science because I can't pass that test.
And I think that's where the coaching element comes in that y'all were talking about earlier. I remember when I first started teaching, I had a well-meaning teacher that told me not to get too involved in the personal life of my students. But like you're all saying, if you have a student that's coming in and their parents were fighting the night before, they're not going to be able to concentrate on what it is that you're trying to teach them. So you've got to take time, if you want to have a good discipline management program in your classroom, to actually address the real issue that's there. And a lot of times we're addressing the symptoms and we're not addressing the real issues. And I think that's what the government does too. They're dealing with the symptoms and they're not dealing with the real issues. And so we've got to really take a look at what the real issues are and stop throwing money at the symptoms and put money in where it really counts, where it really matters. And looking at some solutions to some of the problems that we had, highlighting some of the good things that we have going on in our schools, letting people know that public schools aren't as antiquated as people try to make them seem. There's some broken areas, but they can be fixed. We just need help fixing them. And to get that kind of buy-in, I think is going to be a good thing. And we have one more question that we're going to pose to you guys, and then Ronnie is going to sum up and just conclude. And if y'all have anything that you want to send to him in terms of ideas for solutions, please do that, because we don't always want to sit around and talk about the problems. We want to be solution oriented and connect different people, talk to different people. That's why we want to do citizen calls like this, and maybe this will catch on with other representatives, other congressmen, and they'll actually just come together and sit together and talk. And one of the things I like about this is that this goes beyond just the group of educators that we have at this table, because we're videotaping it and Facebook Living it, so people can be watching this in their living room. They can be watching it while they're doing things, and so the message is getting out. Because a lot of times when you have meetings, whether it's a BFT meeting, an AFT meeting, or whatever meeting you're having, you will have maybe 10, 15 people there, and so your reach isn't as great. And people are always talking about how can we reach millennials, how can we get people involved in education, how can we get the information out there. Well, this is one of those ways we can get the information out there. And so we kind of want to, even with this, create a model that people can use, because we're not as concerned about just winning a race, even though we want to win, but we really want to see improvements in this area. And so if other people can kind of catch on to this and call together these types of meetings with those that are experts in their field, those are actually in the trenches, so to speak, the proverbial trenches, and pull them in and have them talk about some of the things that are going on and have other people listening to that. Maybe you can get some innovation there. Maybe you can have some people that are businessmen that are watching, or students that are thinking about education but been thinking about all the negative things they've heard and not wanting to go into that. They can hear these conversations and say, hey, that's something that I connect to. I want to help out. This is something that I can do to help. And we can pull more people into that conversation and get more people involved in the process.
And I want to comment. I've had a hard time being quiet. But I've been really working on listening to be able to hear the concerns. Because I think a lot of times we come from so many different areas. And as I said, I was a county judge for 14 years and dealt with budgets. And I've seen what happens. A lot of times when we deal with budgets, we become so caught up in the numbers. We get so caught up in the numbers that we forget that there are really people that are attached to these numbers, and people will begin to push us. And we'll get caught up on making sure that this is a balanced budget, which is very important, but we forget about how it deals with people. And one of the things that we talked about sitting the spell, when I got ready to run for office, I was 27 years old, just got out of Texas A&M and worked in government, worked for the controller's office, knew how to cut fat, came in with these ideas, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And when I went in, I already had an idea of what I wanted to do before I talked to the people. But when I began to talk to the people, I began to hear the real issues that were going on, and also the assets and the skill sets. And as I was having these conversations, I began to say, oh, this matches with this matches with that asset matches with this asset. And as I saw, a lot of times it wasn't money, but it was the resources, people working together, that brought about changes and brought about differences in lives. Y'all know, when I give this story, We went out to a community, Stony Point. Many of us know Stony Point. A lot of elected officials have went out to Stony Point, and they looked at it and they said, here comes another elected official about to tell me what they're going to do, and then they're going to leave and not care about me. So when I went there, I got treatment like But as I began to sit there, I had to come back again and again and again. And we began to build relationships. And as we built relationships, as I went to different areas, I remembered those conversations. I remembered that there weren't paved roads. I remembered that there was sewage on the ground. And so when I went before boards that said, hey, we had community block grants, we had these different things, I remembered them. And then I heard other people like Aqua Water saying that we want to put a plant, these different things. And as I heard those different assets, we were able to put them together and to be able to help the community. And the point of what we're having, when we had these conversations and began to hear all these different things, we're saying, how can we go out and connect to other resources to be able to help our schools? Because we have a lot of great assets, and we have to be able to connect them together to move forward. From military, from veterans, to nurses, to schools, all of these are very important assets. Churches, communities, but how do we bring them all together to move communities forward? And a lot of times, rather than talking about how we can come together, we talk about what people are not doing. And what I wanted to do today is sit back and listen, understand the needs. So therefore, when I'm in a position, I can call Sam. I'm going through this. How can you help me? Becky, how can you help me? How can we bring these resources? Knowing that I'm not going to have all the answers, I sit with a teacher. And I can be able to say, baby, how can we work? We want the same thing to be happening in communities. Because I'm going to say this. I dealt with disaster. When we dealt with that fire, it was one of the largest fires, and it changed my life because I understood the connectivity. One person couldn't do it. It took the county being able to work with the state being able to work with the federal government. And we all had to talk the same language. And everybody understood when they came in that they had to value what was going on in the local community. And they would come in, they wouldn't just say, we're going to do this. They would talk, have a conversation, and understood what had taken place and how we can move forward. And with those types of conversations, lives were saved and differences were made. And I thought about it. Are we doing that as we look at all our systems? Or are we being political? And this is what also happened in this situation. I remember sitting in a chair. People would ask me, how do you feel about your governor? How do you feel about your president? The president was a Democrat. The governor was a Republican. And both of those questions were loaded. They were like, what is going to be your answer? And my answer was this. I respect my governor and I respect my president. Because the bottom line, I'm trying to bring resources to the community to be able to save lives. And when we had that conversation, it changed how they came at us because we were unified. And they saw the most important thing was us saving lives. And the most important thing when I sit at this table is what's best for our students and how we can work together. And I believe we can do some great things, not only in this area, in this district, but through the country, by setting a new standard. When we start saying sit a spell, and I'm working on this, guys, not talking, but actually sitting, listening, finding out those things that are important to the individuals that are on the front line, and figuring out how can we bring the resources to the schools, to the community, to be able to make a difference. So thank you for agreeing to sit a spell with me, to talk, so I can experience this process. And what I want to do, and what our goal is, and I say our, because this is not just me, time not together, we want to be able to sit a spell on a lot of different issues, find out what are some common goals that we can work on, and then how we can move forward. Because this is my philosophy. I don't believe government comes from the top down. I believe government comes from the bottom up. So therefore, we're connecting to the people, finding out their concerns, finding their assets, and then begin to connect those together and say, here's a plan how we can move together to be able to make this district better, but also make this country better. So when I'm asked the question, how do I feel about somebody, I'm going to find the good aspects of that. I'm going to find whatever's good, whatever's lovely, whatever's kind. I'm going to focus on those things and put it together and be able to move forward.